what kind of day was it that day? What kind of time was it on the 22nd of October?
The time, I think it was afternoon. I think it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But the day in itself was, I think it's interesting. So just going back to the moment where I realised that that there was no someone in the OC made that final decision. It's funny because then it's the switch and the mind just goes. Then it's like, okay, let's park future plans. Then it's like head in. Okay, go on
Job
tour,
to do.
go and, yeah, and that's it. And then it's you're in business then.
Yeah.
So yes, you then do have that whole kind of, the build up and all that kind of, okay, well, I'm going to go and do my job. But there was an element of, I guess, I mean, yeah, okay. So Tom died. I mean, a lot of guys that year, obviously the casualty rate was increasing quite a bit then because of the IED threat. But I didn't really reflect too much on Tom. There was an element of, okay, well, it would be good to kind of go out there and kind of like do my bit. But there wasn't really the time to kind of focus and reflect on all of those sorts of things. But up until that point, so I was one of the two ICs, so we just got to the ground. So I was out on most of the patrols at the time. So we were doing quite a lot of patrols. And it was a lot of familiarisation. And obviously just because the way that things were, there was like the NATO forces were holding quite a bit of ground, but they were obviously in Sangin area. It was very, very dense with Taliban population as such. So the drive was going to be to try and clear that area and push them out of there to bring kind of stability back, because the locals were really suffering as a result, because they couldn't, the kids couldn't go to school, they couldn't have doctor, medicine, stuff like that. Is very much like, because it's all against the Taliban's kind of rules, as such.
Yeah.
So it was busy. But the day just started. Actually, in fact, the day before was really when everything kind of started, because I had a message. We got back in from patrol, and I had a message to go and call Sadie, who was my wife at the time, which is unusual because she kind of knew, okay, well, when I'm out there, I'll contact her when I can.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
No.
Unless there's something seriously wrong.
Sure.
So at the time, I'm like, okay, well, what's happened? So when I had a chance, I went and phoned her, and she had tested positive. I think she had like grade 3 dyskaryosis or something, like cervical cancer or something like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
something quite serious, which is why she phoned me.
Yeah.
But they have said that they're going to try and laser it and all of this kind of stuff. But she didn't want me to not know, because she had to go in for the treatment imminently. So she was like, what do I do? Do I tell him? Do I not tell him? And then obviously everyone's like, look, you better tell him, because if for some reason it doesn't work, he's going to be pretty annoyed that you didn't tell him. So so she did the right thing, and she told me. But that obviously played in my mind a bit, because initially, I was thinking, great, there's just like another thing, and initially I wasn't going to be here, so I could have been there to support.
Yeah, right.
And whatever, but now I'm kind of out here. I don't know how long for, because initially I was told I wouldn't be doing the whole tour, so I don't know whether that might be exposing people too much. I don't know. But anyway, so went to sleep, had a weird dream, which you could now say is a premonition, where in the dream, obviously I prayed about it at the time, but in the dream, I was blown up. And it was almost exactly the same as what happened, apart from the vehicle was different. So in the dream, we got to an area and we got out of the back of a snatch Land Rover, which is like the old school soft skin kind of whatever. And I was injured just behind us, was walking to the vehicle. So obviously I then woke up, and then I was pretty hang on a minute, pretty distressed at the time.
Yeah.
The morning that morning actually started off pretty rough, I'd say. But obviously, again, you got to get your head in your game. Got head in the game. Got everything, all the kit sorted out, ready to go on patrol. So we should start hammering the patrol. So, once we were out there, things kind of like settled down, if that makes sense. Because then you focus on the job.
Yeah.
And it was all pretty quiet. Yeah. And then we just got to like this hill, and where we had to go like an all-round defence. It's like a defensive circle, all looking out. So we got 360-degree vision of what's going on, while the other section, they were kind of like moving through the valley beneath us. And I was the second in command of that multiple at the time. So my job was, so the IED threat was just through the roof at the time, and this is what slowed it all down, because we had guys with detectors that would clear the ground in front of us as we go.
Yeah.
But then they had to clear each position as well. So, I'd literally walk behind them and place the guys out while they're clearing. And then once they cleared the perimeter, they then clear the inside of that hill, basically, to make sure the whole hilltop's safe. So, I think they've gone over it twice. And then we had a quad bike with a trailer that had a load of ammo and stuff on it. So that pulled into the middle of this all-round defence. By the time I've checked in with all the guys, and then I walked to the middle to go and take my position. And as I got close to the quad bike, my left foot just set the device off. That was basically how that kind of day went. But so it's a pretty kind of standardish day up until that point in time.
Oh my goodness! But the day before.
Yeah, the day before was that was a busy one.
And how was your wife as well?
That's the thing. I've not heard from her then, because I spoke to her on the phone the night before, and then I wasn't able to speak to her again. So she, I don't know when they phoned her. Oh no, they didn't phone her. They had to visit her to tell her that I've been injured, because that's kind of how it is. But everything kind of all phones, everything closed down. If something like this has happened, it's obviously OPSEC, to make sure that wrong information doesn't get leaked out there. So I think like nobody could. There's no way she could find out until she was visited by officers. Yeah, so there was a period of time where, obviously, I would have been going through all of this, and she would have been none the wiser back at home, dealing with her own battles. So,
oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So, so this IED, sort of, what happened? What happened with that? What in terms? You said before chapter 2, you said you looked down.
Yeah.
But what were you blown into the air, or what was the physicality of it?
Yeah. So I was thrown in the air, and it's like the best way to describe it is, it's like being struck by a bolt of lightning. I've not been struck by a bolt of lightning, but when thunder's right above your head and it's like really loud, and it's just sort of that instantaneous kind of thunder. That's a bit what it was like. It just, it just hit me pretty hard. It threw me in the air, and then I hit the deck, but everything was just blocked out. There's just dust like everywhere, really thick, because the dust is quite. The ground was quite sort of stony in a way. There's lots of rocky, kind of dry, arid kind of desert land, but the sand in between is very fine.
Right.
So it was just one big dust cloud. But initially I didn't know it was me. I thought I got caught in the blast of somebody else. I was just like lying there it felt like a while, but it obviously would have been seconds, I guess. And then that's when the sensation went through my body. I could hear the platoon sergeant getting on the radio, and he was like, right, wait for the dust to settle, Valor men, you need to get around. So I think he was already aware that it was me before I was, because then he was obviously just briefing the guys on dust settle, Valor men, you need to get up, you need to clear the ground again, that kind of stuff. And then I had the feeling going through, and that's when I looked, and obviously the devastation hit, and then at the same time, but I was in a crater actually, and which is also another reason why I couldn't really see anybody. And then I had just blood. I was just the rate it was coming out was phenomenal. It just almost filled this crater, just almost, I would say instantaneously, but it was pretty quick. And the pain was something that was just, it's hard to describe it, but it was just ripping through my body. It just severe stinging, crushing. Obviously it was something I've never felt before. It was excruciating. And obviously I was waiting for the guys, because obviously my hands at the time were all like mangled, like I'd been through a blender, I had an open fracture and stuff like that, so I couldn't really do anything. I had my thumbs, that's about the only thing I could use. Wow. And so I just unpicked, my helmet was choking me, so I remember unpicking that. I had like blood in my face from a cut on my head, and then my glasses were all like crisscrossed because they saved my eyesight, so I took those off. And at that point I was like, well, if we're getting shot at now, I really don't care. Just like, if they hit me, then they hit me, kind of thing. So I took that off, and then so initially after thinking about like the career and that kind of stuff, that's when I was thinking about family, and that's when I thought about Tom, and then I could feel myself draining. I could feel that I was dying, my life was kind of just like being sucked into the ground beneath me. And that's a moment where I prayed, and I was like, God, please, I need some strength here. I need to stay awake. I can't die here, not like this. Because obviously Tom's only just died. Sadie's going through what she's going through. Her dad also just had an organ transplant. Like, it's all happening, and I was like, I can't. And there was an answer to prayer, because the moment I prayed that, I had like a bit of energy in me, just enough to kind of stay awake, and considering how much I was bleeding as well. And the guys did a great job. I mean, they couldn't quite, because of the nature of the wound on that left leg. They couldn't really get the tourniquet on. They got it on, but it wasn't proper, because the angle of the wound was almost, it was an angle, kind of, just completely ripped. Yeah. So, obviously all the other bits they could sort out, but and then the guys were getting me on a stretcher to run me in. I think we must have been just over a mile outside of the FOB, the forward operating base. Yeah. And then the fire support commander, a guy called Ish, sergeant, brilliant bloke. He just came bombing across in a Jackal, which is like an open top fighting vehicle. And he's like, "No, get him on there. We'll drive him in." So they put me on the back of that, and then they got me into the forward operating base, into the little sort of field hospital there, like a little tent, and that's where the doc could then kind of, patch me up a bit better and give me a bit. I had morphine at the time, but it wasn't really doing anything. So he's giving me some stronger stuff, I think.
You've lost loads of blood at that point as well.
Yeah, so I don't know how much I lost at that stage, but it took 48 units of blood to get to Selyoke, basically. It's from point of injury to Selyoke. So it's a 12-hour period. So I think the body takes, 8? Or something like that, 8 units.
Oh my goodness.
Something like that. So yeah, it was a lot of. So I had so many other people's blood just basically going through me at the time. Yeah, so it was a lot. And I contracted pneumonia as well, and swine flu.
Oh, did you?
At the same time, yeah. So I had, so I was in a pretty bad way. So
So you were flown from Afghanistan, from that FOB. What was then the journey?
So the Chinook came in. So it's it's called MERT, Medical Evacuation Response Team. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, anyway, so they came in. Again, amazing people. So I think it's 34 minutes from point of injury to when I was picked up by the helicopter.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty quick. And on the back of that helicopter, that's like a mini hospital in there. So they could already start doing a lot of stuff. So they flew me to Camp Bastion. So then at Camp Bastion, they've got a hospital there, so they could then start initial surgery. And that's when I had a message via the Padre from Sadie, because by this point she's found out. Excuse me. That was it. And then they have, and then from there it's an Aeromed, so it's like a C-17 Globemaster, so it's like a big aeroplane. Again, it has a hospital in the back. So they put on a flight to get me back to the UK. Mm-hmm. So yeah, flew me back to Birmingham, and then I was at Selly Oak then. So that's where I did my initial treatment at Selly Oak. Yeah. So, but it was pretty, but obviously I wasn't aware of the pneumonia thing until I woke up in Selly Oak, and I had the machine breathe for me and stuff. So I was being completely on life support. And then they said, well, look, we just don't know. We just don't know if you're going to make it, because they couldn't give me anything else, because if they give me any more than what they have, I'm going to die. So they kind of, we need to see whether I'm able to pull through based on what they've already given me for pain relief and to obviously fight the pneumonia and stuff like that. So,
and how with it were you at that point?
I was kind of like in and out. So I was conscious until I got onto the back of the Mert, and that's the time when I thought I was actually I'm gonna die. That was the first, because on the ground I was fading, but obviously I prayed and I was strengthened for a bit. But on the back of the Mert, I was like, no, actually this is worn off now. I'm, and I made my peace, and I was like, I'm dead. And then I managed to, I don't know how, but I managed to somehow get the medic's attention, to tell her that I can't hold on. And she was like, that's okay, we've got you now. And that was it. So then I remember then had a memory from waking up in Bastion Hospital when the Padre spoke to me. And then I remember having a memory. That's the thing, there's so many, and I don't know what's real and what wasn't. But I remember one from the back of the aeroplane. I remember being blue lighted from Birmingham Airport to Selly Oak. And actually I remember saying to the paramedic that I've never been in an ambulance before. Something like that. It's just bits. And then obviously the next thing I opened my eyes and Sadie was like standing there. But then I still, even though I knew that I'd been injured, I obviously didn't know the severity of my injuries, because I was like, okay, well, the nurse said that when you turn up, we can go home, kind of thing. So very much had that. My mind was still very much in the field, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the pneumonia until they said that. And obviously they told me that. So okay, well, we just have to see how the next 24 hours go. Pulled through, and then showed signs of improvement, and that was it. So how long did I spend? This was 9 days in intensive care. But I was at Selly Oak itself for 3.5 weeks, and then went to Headley Court, which is the recovery centre.
Not far from here.
Yeah.
And how long were you there for?
For just over 4 years. Yeah. So, a bit of a journey, that one.